Welcome to this deep dive. And today we're going way beyond just, the basic story of Marie Curie and radium.
Oh, yeah. Definitely beyond the textbook.
I mean, everyone's heard of radium.
Yeah.
But what about the woman behind those discoveries?
Yeah.
What about all the challenges and the impact that she had?
I think that's what we're going to try and uncover today, right? Like the real Marie Curie.
Yeah.
This woman who had to kind of, you know, navigate this landscape of science that was just
Well, it was a tough time.
riddled with obstacles, particularly for women.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, being a woman in academia at that time was no walk in the park, but it wasn't just sort of general societal bias with Curie, was it?
Right.
I mean, being rejected by the French Academy of Sciences, despite all of her groundbreaking work, I mean, that feels pretty pointed, like they were making a statement.
Yeah.
Do we know what her reaction to that was?
Well, it's interesting because she rarely addressed these slights directly, in her own writing.
Hmm.
But her actions, I think, speak volumes. So, for instance, take her research on magnetism.
Okay.
This wasn't just some, abstract scientific pursuit.
Right.
She was working directly with the French steel industry to try and develop more effective permanent magnets.
So this is like applied science. This is, really trying to find solutions.
Yeah, and you think about, like, at the time, reliable compasses, they were essential for navigation.
Oh, absolutely. Especially
Yeah.
for, a naval power like France.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's not just some theoretical thing. This is really important.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So
Yeah.
she's tackling this, really practical problem and contributing to something with, actual tangible national importance.
Yeah.
I mean, was this maybe a way of proving her worth in a field that seemed to constantly be pushing back against her?
It's certainly possible. I mean, her work on steel had a direct impact on the effectiveness of these magnets.
Wow.
So leading to more accurate compasses and safer navigation.
Yeah.
This was far from theoretical. It had immediate real-world implications.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder if those who denied her entry into the academy, saw the irony of directly benefiting from this work that they seem to deem, unworthy of recognition simply because it was done by a woman.
It's certainly something to think about.
Yeah.
But this drive to apply her knowledge for practical good went beyond just magnetism.
Okay.
So during World War I, her focus shifts to X-ray technology.
Right.
And I don't mean just studying it. She
Wow.
gets incredibly hands-on with what came to be known as the Petite Curies.
Yeah, the mobile X-ray unit.
Exactly.
And she wasn't just, theorizing about it. She was out there on the front lines with this technology.
Yeah.
I mean, learning to drive in those early days of automobiles, that couldn't have been easy.
Oh, no.
It shows real commitment beyond just the science.
Absolutely. She recognized that there was this immediate need for this technology in these battlefield hospitals.
Oh, for sure.
Where, rapid diagnosis of injuries was critical. So imagine her not just providing this scientific expertise, but actually driving these units to the battlefield, sometimes even operating them herself.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she didn't just stop there.
No, she just...
She set up this whole training program for women to become X-ray technicians. I mean, that's really thinking long term.
Yeah, over 150 women were trained through this program.
Wow.
Providing this vital support during the war and really paving the way for more women in these fields.
Yeah.
So it really shows her vision, and that she understood that the impact of her work could be amplified by empowering other people, and specifically women, to utilize this life-saving technology.
Yeah. I mean, this was still a time when a woman driving a car was kind of raising eyebrows,
Right.
let alone spearheading this medical technology revolution in the middle of a war.
Exactly.
It makes you realize how much Curie was just defying the norms of her time.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, this public prominence, this stepping into the spotlight, it makes you wonder, did that maybe set the stage for a more challenging chapter in her life?
Potentially, yeah.
This whole scandal in 1911,
Right.
the relationship with Paul Angevin after Pierre Curie's death.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't just some, scientific debate.
No, it wasn't.
This became very public and very personal.
It did.
It makes you wonder, how did this affect her work? Did she retreat from public life, or did it fuel her even more?
Well, while the attacks on her were undeniably vicious,
Oh, yeah.
I think what's important to note is that figures like Albert Einstein came to her defense. They recognized the need to separate her personal life from her undeniable scientific contributions.
It's good to hear that even in that climate,
Yeah.
people were standing by her brilliance, even if they maybe didn't agree with her personal choices.
Yeah, and it highlights a crucial point.
Oh.
Her work transcended the personal drama.
Okay.
And when you look at the work itself, particularly the discovery of polonium and radium, there's this deep personal layer there that's often overlooked.
Oh, yeah, the naming of polonium after her homeland, Poland, I mean, that's clearly significant. It wasn't just a scientific discovery. Yeah. It was a way to honor her roots on this world stage.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know if she ever spoke about that connection directly?
Well, she might not have, explicitly detailed her feelings about the name.
Right.
Her actions demonstrate its significance.
Okay.
So think about this. The cover of The Elements of Marie Curie, which is a book celebrating her work, features an image resembling an X-ray.
Oh, wow.
And it's this kind of visual metaphor, the glow of discovery, this groundbreaking science intertwined with the very real risks of her research.
Wow, that's a really striking image. And it makes me think about her laboratory notebooks.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still radioactive today.
They are.
That's a tangible reminder of both her brilliance and the danger she faced.
Yeah, those notebooks are a powerful testament to the dedication and personal cost of her work.
Mm-hmm.
I think we often focus on those eureka moments in scientific discovery. But with Curie's case,
Right.
it was years of this meticulous, often hazardous work
Yeah.
to isolate these elements.
And this wasn't happening in some, sterile modern lab.
No.
Can you kind of paint a picture of what it actually looked like to isolate these elements?
Okay, so imagine tons of pitchblende, which
Yeah.
is this uranium-rich ore
Okay.
piled high in this makeshift lab,
Okay.
and they had to crush it, grind it, dissolve it, filter it. It was incredibly demanding, both physically and mentally.
So it sounds more like back-breaking labor than some, elegant scientific experiment.
It really does.
And we all know about the health consequences,
Yeah.
but to voluntarily subject yourself to that day after day,
Yeah.
I mean, there had to be this powerful driving force beyond just scientific curiosity.
And there was Pierre Curie's self-experimentation with radiation burns and, documenting those effects.
Right.
It showed their understanding that these elements, especially radium, held potential far beyond just theoretical physics.
So even in those early days, they were seeing the potential for medical application,
Yeah.
for actually treating diseases.
They understood that radium had this power to destroy tissue, and they were determined to understand how to harness that for good, specifically to treat cancer.
So this wasn't just about scientific discovery. This was about alleviating human suffering.
Exactly.
This is where the story of radium takes this fascinating turn.
Yeah.
Something so dangerous with the potential for such harm,
Yeah.
also offering this new path in medicine.
Hmm.
It makes you realize just how complex, how nuanced these scientific breakthroughs can be.
Yeah, and the Curies were at the forefront of this complexity.
Mm.
Their work paved the way for advancements in radiation therapy that would save countless lives.
It's a really powerful reminder that the pursuit of knowledge can have profound and sometimes unexpected consequences.
Yes.
And speaking of consequences, we can't ignore the personal toll that their research took.
Yeah.
We've touched on Pierre's self-experimentation, but what about Marie?
They both suffered significantly. They experienced burns fatigue and a range of other health problems that we now understand were caused by their constant exposure to radiation.
It's heartbreaking to think about the sacrifices they made, the
Yeah.
risks they took, all in the name of scientific progress.
It's true.
It makes you wonder, knowing what we know now, would they still have done it?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
What we can say for certain is that their work laid the foundation for a whole new field of science, nuclear physics.
But nuclear physics, as we understand it now, didn't really develop until much later, did it?
That's right.
It's interesting to think about them laying the groundwork for something that wouldn't fully blossom until years later.
Yeah, their discoveries, especially their work on radioactive decay and the isolation of these elements,
Right.
it provided these crucial insights into the very structure of the atom.
Wow.
So these were the building blocks for what would come later, the foundation for physicists like Ernest Rutherford to build upon.
So it's almost like planting these seeds that would eventually grow into this vast and complex scientific landscape. But even beyond specific discoveries, Marie Curie's influence extended to something even more profound. She paved the way for other women in science, didn't she?
Absolutely. Think about Maria Goeppert-Mayer,
Okay.
another pioneering woman in nuclear physics.
Mm-hmm.
She made groundbreaking contributions to our understanding of the atomic nucleus, but like Curie, she faced this field dominated by men.
And it feels like her story also gets overshadowed.
It does.
Much like Curie's own struggles were often minimized in her time.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder if there's a pattern here,
Yeah.
like a systemic issue within the scientific community
Right.
that still struggles to fully recognize the contributions of women.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone like Marie Curie, who made such significant contributions, is often overlooked, what does that say about the broader problem?
It's a question worth asking,
Yeah.
and it brings us back to Marie Curie and her legacy.
Okay.
It's not just about radium or polonium.
Right.
It's about this indomitable spirit of scientific inquiry, this unwavering pursuit of truth, and the profound impact that one person can have on the world, even when facing these enormous obstacles.
It's a legacy that continues to inspire, reminding us that potential exists everywhere, regardless of gender or background.
Absolutely. So welcome back to our deep dive into the life of Marie Curie.
It's great to be back.
We left off talking about those challenges she faced as a woman in science.
Yeah.
And the personal toll her research took.
And we also touched on the fact that while she was laying the groundwork for nuclear physics, the field itself didn't really take off until much later.
Right. And it's fascinating to consider, what might have led to that delay.
Yeah.
Imagine Curie working in those early years of the 20th century
Right.
with limited resources, facing skepticism, even hostility from parts of the scientific community.
That's a far cry from the massive research facilities and international collaborations we see today.
Exactly. And yet she's making these fundamental discoveries about radioactive decay,
Right.
about the very nature of atoms. But without the tools and the theoretical frameworks that would come later, it was like trying to piece together a complex puzzle with only a handful of pieces.
So she was limited not only by the, societal barriers she faced as a woman, but also by just the limitations of science at the time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I mean, think about Ernest Rutherford,
Okay.
a key figure in the development of nuclear physics.
Yeah.
His famous gold foil experiment, that revealed the structure of the atom,
Right.
didn't happen until 1911.
Wow.
Years after Curie's initial discoveries.
So she's making these groundbreaking observations, isolating these elements, but the broader scientific community wasn't quite ready to grasp the implications of her work.
It's like she was providing the raw materials, the fundamental building blocks.
Yeah.
But the blueprints for the full structure wouldn't be available for some time.
And this takes us back to that idea of those seeds being planted.
Right.
But it wasn't just a passive process, was it?
No.
She wasn't just sitting around waiting for other people to build on her work.
No, not at all.
She was actively pushing those boundaries.
Absolutely. Think about her work on isolating radium.
Okay.
This wasn't just some theoretical pursuit.
Right.
It was years of this incredibly demanding, often dangerous labor.
Yeah, we talked earlier about those mountains of pitch blende, that back-breaking process of extraction.
And I think it's worth really emphasizing just how challenging that process was.
Okay.
We have these accounts from her lab notebooks,
Yeah.
descriptions of the physical toll it took on her, the constant exposure to these radioactive materials.
Do we have any specific quotes, anything that really captures what it was like for her on a day-to-day basis?
Well, in one entry, she describes the lab as feeling like a medieval alchemist's workshop,
Oh, wow.
with fumes, dust, and this constant risk of burns.
It's a far cry from the pristine, controlled environments we associate with labs today.
It really is.
It makes her achievement all the more remarkable, knowing the challenges she faced on a purely practical level, let alone the societal barriers.
Absolutely. And amidst all of this, she's not just focused on the science itself,
Okay.
but also on its potential applications.
Right.
Her husband, Pierre, tragically died in 1906,
Yes.
but his work on the medical effects of radiation continued through her.
Right. We talked about his self-experimentation documenting the effects of radiation burns.
And that work was crucial in understanding how radium could be used to treat cancer.
Oh.
They both saw that potential even in those early days,
Hmm.
and Marie was determined to carry that torch forward.
It's incredible to think about this substance that could be so harmful, also holding the key to healing.
Yeah.
It really highlights the duality of scientific discovery, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And Curie's work embodies that duality, the brilliance, the groundbreaking discoveries, but also the very real risks, the personal sacrifices.
And speaking of risk, we can't forget about the long-term consequences of her exposure to radiation.
Of course not.
We know she eventually died from aplastic anemia,
Right.
a condition directly linked to her work.
It's a stark reminder of the price she paid for her dedication to science.
It really is.
But even in her later years,
Yeah.
as her health deteriorated, her focus remained on the advancement of knowledge, on the potential of her discoveries to benefit humanity.
It's a powerful legacy.
It is.
And it's not just limited to her scientific contributions.
Right.
We talked earlier about her role in training women in X-ray technology during World War I.
And that mentorship, that commitment to empowering other women in science is another crucial part of her legacy.
For sure.
She understood the challenges women faced in this male-dominated field, and she actively worked to create opportunities for them.
It makes me think back to our discussion about Maria Curie.
Yeah.
And how her contributions to nuclear physics are often overlooked.
It's a pattern we see throughout history, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Women in science, even those who make these groundbreaking discoveries, often face an uphill battle for recognition.
It's a reminder that while Curie made significant strides in breaking down those barriers, the fight for equality in science is far from over.
It's not over.
And it makes you wonder how many other Marie Curies are out there.
Right.
How many brilliant minds are being overlooked or marginalized because of their gender or other factors?
It's a sobering thought.
It is, but it's also a call to action, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We need to be more intentional about recognizing and celebrating the contributions of everyone in science, regardless of background.
Exactly. It's about creating this more inclusive, more equitable scientific community where everyone has the opportunity to thrive and contribute their unique talents.
And that, in a sense, is the ultimate legacy of Marie Curie. It's not just about the specific discoveries, the elements, the awards. It's about inspiring a new generation of scientists, a generation that reflects the diversity of our world.
It's about fostering a scientific community that values collaboration, that embraces different perspectives, and that recognizes that the pursuit of knowledge is this collective endeavor.
And that brings us to, I think, the heart of what makes Curie such an enduring figure. It's not just the brilliance and the groundbreaking discoveries. It's the humanity, the resilience, the unwavering belief in the power of science to make a difference in the world.
And it's a story that continues to resonate with us today.
It does.
Reminding us that even in the face of adversity, even when the odds are stacked against you, the pursuit of knowledge, the drive to make a difference can lead to extraordinary things.
It's a really powerful message.
It is.
And one that's worth carrying with us as we explore the world, as we push boundaries, as we strive to make our own unique contributions, no matter how big or small.
Exactly.
You know, it's incredible, even after spending all this time with Curie and her story. There's still this sense of awe, this feeling that we've only just scratched the surface.
I think what's fascinating is how her story continues to resonate with us today.
Oh, absolutely.
And not just in the scientific world, but on a really personal level. I mean, you see her facing these societal barriers, navigating a world that just wasn't ready for a woman of her brilliance.
It wasn't.
And yet she persevered.
She did. And it's almost like her story gives us permission to challenge those same barriers in our own lives. To kind of push back against those limitations, whether they're imposed by society or even, by ourselves.
Exactly. Curie's journey reminds us that progress often comes from questioning assumptions, from refusing to just accept the status quo.
Yeah, and she really embodies that spirit of a true trailblazer.
She does.
Constantly pushing those boundaries. Not just in science, but just in how she lived her life.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that her path wasn't always easy.
Oh, of course not.
She faced setbacks, moments of self-doubt. Just the crushing weight of expectations from society and probably from herself.
Well, that's what makes her human, right?
It does.
It reminds us that even these brilliant minds, like Curie, grapple with the same struggles we all face.
Exactly. It makes her achievements all the more remarkable, knowing that she wasn't immune to those challenges, those moments of vulnerability. It makes her story, I think, even more relatable, even more inspiring.
And, her influence extends so far beyond just her own individual achievement.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, think about all the women she inspired to pursue careers in science. To break into those fields that were, traditionally dominated by men.
It's like she created this ripple effect, this wave of change that continues to spread even today.
Her legacy is really a testament to the power of mentorship.
It is.
Of creating this supportive environment. Where everyone, regardless of gender or background, feels empowered to contribute their talents.
Absolutely.
And that's something we can all strive for in our own lives.
For sure.
Whether it's in science or any other field. It's about fostering that culture of collaboration where those diverse perspectives are valued and celebrated.
And recognizing that the pursuit of knowledge is this collective endeavor.
Yeah, we all have something unique to offer.
We do.
And that brings us back to the core of Marie Curie's legacy.
Right.
It's not just the specific discoveries.
The elements.
Yeah, the awards.
Yeah.
It's about passion, perseverance,
Mm.
and this unwavering commitment to uncovering the truths of the natural world.
A legacy that continues to illuminate the path for generations of scientists and dreamers alike.
Well said. Marie Curie's life really does serve as this powerful testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and the limitless potential that lies within each of us.
Her story challenges us to embrace curiosity, to question assumptions, and to create a world where every brilliant mind has the opportunity to shine.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll uncover another hidden figure.
Yeah.
Another Marie Curie waiting to inspire the world with their brilliance.
I hope so.
Until then, let's continue to explore, to question, and to push the boundaries of what's possible. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the remarkable life and legacy of Marie Curie.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating journey into the world of knowledge and discovery.